Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my new video. And in today's video I'm going to be discussing a very interesting topic. Which country do you think Top Gun Maverick has been bombing? They don't really mention it on the film and it's one of those greatest mysteries. So if you haven't seen the film, make sure you watch it before you watch this video because I will be doing spoilers. Cover news that nobody else is going to cover. First of all, Top Gun looks like it's going to be banned in China. The reason is they have a Taiwanese flag in Tom Cruise's jacket, and this jacket was in the original film and he wears it again in the new film as well. So don't think the Chinese are very happy. The producers have actually refused to take this part out, and because they've refused to take this part out, it's not going to be shown in China. And don't think they're going to care too much because Tom Cruise film Maverick is making a lot of money in the West, so I don't think they will care too much about it. However, they could have made a lot more if it was in China. Anyway, let's move on with the rest of the film review. So all in all, I would say it's a very good film. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy any film that's non-woke nowadays, and it definitely wasn't any virtual signaling, and I didn't see any woke elements, and it had some exciting bits, and it had good acting performances all round, some exciting moments, very good action sequences. All in all, I enjoyed the film. But one of the things I need to talk about is which country is Top Gun Maverick unilaterally bombing? And as you know, it's typical of the Americans to bomb a country without any international law or UN approval. They just go around bombing whichever country the hell they want. And in this particular moment, they were bombing a uranium site. So imagine this. Imagine they went for a bombing run on this uranium site and they failed. Can you imagine the retaliation it would cause? I mean, these guys are attacking a country with nuclear munitions, nuclear weapons. So if this mission failed, can you imagine the retaliation that country would do against the Americans or the world if they have nuclear weapons or nuclear munitions? It's absolutely ridiculous if you really think about it. So a couple of questions I need to ask is, why couldn't they bomb this uranium site from the sky? They could have easily got a couple of bunker buster bombs down from a B-2 or B-52 bomber, stealth bomber, and they could have easily directed one of those bunker buster bombs, and that would have done the trick. There was no need for these guys to fly around mountains and do zigzags and make it really, really complicated. It's almost like a Mission Impossible film, to be honest. And guess what? Tom Cruise is in it, so I'm sure he had some say in how to make this film. So yes, it wasn't really realistic. These were F-18 fighter jets, very old fighter jets, and they were up against fifth generation Su-57 airplanes, Russian airplanes. So I don't think it's realistic that they could beat these fifth generation airplanes with F-18s. And secondly, these guys were doing impossible maneuvers around mountains and between mountains. And they had to throw precision guided bombs in some sort of target box in the middle of a mountain. And first of all, why would they put a target box? Why would the enemy put a target box in the middle of a mountain where you can put a big X on it and say, "Hey, hit me"? You know, that target box needs to be hidden, or you shouldn't really put something like that, which is easy for an attack. You're basically marking an X, and once the target box gets destroyed, there's a big hole in it, and second aircraft then comes in and throws some more rockets in through the hole and destroys all of the uranium that's in there. So first of all, destroying all of that uranium, wouldn't it release a lot of radiation? And what about any retaliation? So when you destroy another country's uranium stockpile, and wouldn't that be a cause of nuclear war? I mean, if a country is clever enough to build that kind of nuclear hide it underground, I'm sure they can do it again, right? And if it's a major enough country, I'm sure they would have retaliated against American cities. But anyway, let's not get into that. Let's talk about the countries that this bombing run could involve. And basically, it's a rogue nation. They mention it's a rogue nation. And there's only a few rogue nations around the world that America doesn't like. So let's go through them one by one, shall we? So, number one, Afghanistan. So everyone knows Afghanistan doesn't really have nuclear weapons, but it has very similar snowy, mountainous terrain. Unfortunately, Afghanistan is landlocked, so which means they wouldn't be able to fly into it, because in the movie they fly from aircraft carriers along the sea and then get into the mountains. So we need a country that is basically near the sea. The second country is Belarus. I'm going to go through this in alphabetical order, by the way. So alphabetical order, Belarus, that might have, is a very good friend of Russia, so they might have Su-57s first of all. And Belarus also has some mountainous areas. However, Belarus is also landlocked and mostly flat, so not really ideal to be a target really. So Cuba. So Cuba wouldn't have Su-57s, and it wouldn't really host any nuclear weapons, so I wouldn't think it's Cuba. A lot of people think it's Iran, by the way. So Iran is also mountainous, sometimes it's snowy, and it's also very close to the Gulf of Oman. The Iranian government probably has some nuclear weapons hidden in some mountains, and they're not really telling the world about. And so I think a lot of people, and it's most likely going to be Iran, to be honest. However, Iran does not have Su-57s. I'm pretty sure of that. The only country that has Su-57s is Russia, and I don't think they've exported it to any other countries because they don't want to give out the technology. So they haven't really sold Su-57s to any other country, unless they've done it secretly, which I don't know about. I'm pretty sure if they sold it to Iran, then everyone would have known about it. Iran, it could be. I put a question mark on that, and I'll come back to that. So the next rogue nation in terms of American rogue list is Nicaragua. Nicaragua is very poor. It wouldn't have Su-57s or wouldn't have any nuclear weapons, so it's definitely not that. North Korea could be a country because it's very mountainous. It's also next to the sea, and however, I don't think it has Su-57s. However, it's got a lot of nukes, and we're talking about 40 to 50 nukes. So if America did attack North Korea and destroy its nukes in those mountains, mark my word, North Korea will fight back. They'll start throwing nukes at South Korea. They'll start throwing nukes at Japan. You don't mess around with North Korea. So I don't think America would be stupid enough to bomb North Korea. So the next country a lot of people think it is Russia. And Russia obviously has Su-57s in bucket loads. It's also close to mountainous regions, but it makes no sense why America would attack Russia, blow up its nukes, because Russia's got about 6,000 warheads. So any attack on Russia, it would mean the end of America. They would literally throw those 6,000 nukes at America. Some of them would be hypersonic, so let's not go there, shall we? So Syria is another country that could be. It could also have Su-57s because there's a Russian air base in Syria. Russia obviously has a big army situated in Syria, so those Su-57s could be operated by Russians. Syria is also near the sea, and also it has mountainous regions. However, Syria doesn't have any nuclear weapons and is not actively pursuing any nuclear weapons, so it's highly unlikely they would store any uranium in any mountainous sites in Syria. However, I'm saying this with the big if. It also depends on the American intelligence, and we know American intelligence isn't very good. So somebody somewhere maybe is saying that Syria has a stockpile of uranium and this is just an excuse for them to go into Syria and start blowing things up. So it could be that Syria doesn't really have these uraniums. They could be storing something else in these underground bunkers, and Americans assume it's nuclear uranium stuff, and they just blow it up to smithereens just because they can, and just because it's Syria. So that could also make sense. Most likely, also, it could be Syria. So that's a question mark as well. So let's carry on, and we'll come back to this. Other rogue nation is Venezuela, and definitely not Venezuela because it doesn't have Su-57s, and it definitely doesn't have any nuclear weapons, and I don't think they'll dare to even have any nuclear weapons, and it won't even have any Su-57s. So I don't think Venezuela would be the case. So the only two countries it could be is Iran and Syria. The danger with Iran is if you start bombing Iran, there is a big question mark whether Iran has actually got nuclear weapons or not. I know they're playing games about, with America at the moment. There's talks going on, especially with Iran, stopping their nuclear weapons program. Well, it's not really weapons program, but a nuclear program. But I'm pretty sure Iran has the capability of creating nuclear weapons. They are just playing games with the West, trying to get a good deal, get rid of their sanctions. But I believe Iran also has already got the technology. They have a lot of underground bunkers all over Iran. So if they were doing this in secret, the weapons inspectors have also been kicked out, because once Trump decided to get away from the deal he signed with Iran, Iran also kicked out a lot of weapons inspectors and nuclear inspectors, and also cameras in nuclear sites as well. So you don't really know what Iran is doing. So it could be that Iran is secretly developing these nukes, and America went in to destroy them. The danger with attacking Iran is if they've got the technology to do them, they would definitely retaliate. And if America misses those targets, or if America even gets those targets, Iran could declare war against American targets, and they could start bombing American bases all over Middle East, especially Israel even, and even they would stop American ships going through the through the narrow Strait of Hormuz, for example. So Iran could cause a lot of problems for America. So I don't really think America would be stupid enough to attack Iran. But then again, they have been talking about doing bombing runs on Iran for a long time now. So I wouldn't put it past them. Syria is also a likely contender as well. And Syria obviously is being bombed by not only Israel, but also Americans, and there's Turkish troops in there. And there's also a lot of American troops in Syria at the moment, and they have taken over some of the oil fields in Syria. So it wouldn't surprise me if America went and bombed Syria, and they're pretty sure that Syria won't be able to fight back. There are Russian troops in Syria, but Russia wouldn't attack any American troops and try and escalate at any point. So that wouldn't happen. So it's also most likely Syria. So it could be either Iran or Syria, or it could be a rogue nation. When I say it's a rogue nation, for example, it could be like, for example, ISIS, for example. I'm just giving you an example. Could be ISIS, could be another rogue nation, or some rogue nation who has actually managed to get some sort of technology and to basically weaponize nukes, and managed to get Su-57 as well, buy some Su-57 from Russia, buy some anti-aircraft weapons as well, and bought a nice piece of land in some rogue nation around the world. So yes, we are talking about something out of James Bond or Mission Impossible movies. I don't know if you've seen the Mission Impossible movies. I don't know if you've seen James Bond. It could be like a real villain out there who is a billionaire and who has enough money to buy Su-57s, nuclear uranium, nuclear weapon, anti-aircraft missiles, and land as well to host it in. So it could be that. So it could be one of the three, really. It could be Iran, it could be Syria, or some sort of rogue state, or some extravagant villain or billionaire who's storing these uraniums underground in order to weaponize them and use it against America at some point. So yeah, it could be that. So let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next video. Take care for now.